Milestones have a time frame of 3 to 4 months. So when we say 6 months, all children will not be sitting at 6 months. So we start seeing independent sitting anywhere between 4 months to 9 months. Start tummy time. From the first week itself, we should also do side lying positions. You see so much tummy time and not enough side lying talk.
When a baby can sit up, that means the muscles in their digestive system are strong enough to help digest food.
They should be rolling both sides. Before they are rolling, we should not start supported sitting. When we start standing them up at 5, 6 months, that's when we are troubling their hip. Everybody wants their child to start walking early. But when it comes to sitting them up at the right time, everybody gets worried that we are going to mess up their spine. It's not okay for your child to skip crawling.
Hey parents, welcome to another episode of the Modern Indian Parent Podcast, a podcast that is redefining parenting in Indian families. I'm Sanchita Daswani, a pediatric nutritionist, and every week we bring you episodes where we are challenging traditional norms and helping all of us modern Indian parents change the way when it comes to parenting. As a parent today, there's so much information out there, especially when it comes to our kids' milestones. With the access to social media, being able to see so many other babies, it is overwhelming for us as parents to make sure that our kids are actually growing the right way, they're actually meeting their milestones. And if they aren't, it makes us really stressed out in terms of what are we doing wrong as parents? And in today's episode, we are very lucky to have with us Dr. Megha Arora, who is a physiotherapist. She has her master's in physiotherapy with over 10 years of experience. She's also worked in several NGOs. She's worked with special needs kids. And recently, she created her page, Mommy Theories, on Instagram, where all she's trying to do is just help simplify the knowledge when it comes to developmental milestones for kids for both physical and behavioral development, just to help it make it easier for parents so that if there are any delays, you can know what to do. And in today's episode, she will be joining us to help us answer all these questions we have when it comes to developmental milestones. So let's welcome Dr. Megha on the podcast. Hi, Dr. Megha. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. It's such a pleasure to join you. I'm really excited to start educating everybody.
I've been following your page for a while, and this is a topic that parents are really nervous about because I think nowadays we have so much access to social media and seeing other babies that we can't help but compare. And this is why we have you on the podcast today to just help parents just have that knowledge so that they feel a bit more secure and they can also take the right steps. Let's just get right into it. I want to get to the basics. Can you explain to us what is a developmental milestone exactly?
So basically, all the kids, all the babies, they get to certain skills and behaviors in a certain time frame, and those act like the benchmark or the checklist for how they are developmentally progressing for healthcare professionals as well as parents. So there are 3, 4 types of developmental milestones, and parents are mostly able to easily see the physical milestones and the communication milestones. So in physical milestones we say there are 2 kinds of milestones. These are gross motor milestones, which are bigger movements that you see, that the child will start rolling around 4 months. They'll start sitting around 6 months, crawling, walking. These are the gross motor milestones. Then there are fine motor milestones, which will include smaller movements like picking up something with the 3 fingers or using a spoon and scooping the food and putting it in their mouth and so on, holding a teether. These are fine motor skills. Then we have cognitive milestones in which when their thinking develops, that also comes according to some time frame, where an average age we will see problem solving in around 9 to 12 months. We'll see the child will be able to play with peekaboo kind of games, and around 12 months they will be able to start putting things, posting toys. They will be start using stacking toys and nesting toys. So those are all problem solving skills which start to develop around 9 to 12 months. So these time frames help health professionals as well as parents keep a track on whether the child is progressing according to the average checklist. And if we see that there's some delay, let's say the child is not rolling by the age of 9 months, because we already know that the average rolling time window is 3 months to 6 months. At 7 months, we can pick out that, okay, this child has some problems. We have to look into it. They might have some tightness, some muscle tone issue. So developmental the first 2 years when it comes to development are really crucial because those are
Right. So what you're saying is that in the first 2 years, because I know parents are obsessed with weight, they're obsessed with height, but on top of that, it's very important that they are on track for these developmental milestones as well. Because we always talk about how the first 2 years are really the foundation for our kids'
yes.
growth. So that's exactly what you're saying. Now, my question is, so we have this timeline of average, right? Average months when these things need to happen. Is there a certain leeway we have or a range? Like if a child is supposed to be able to sit up at 6 months, how do we know when, if your child is not sitting, if it's a delay that we need to be concerned about, or we can give it some more time? Is it 1, 2 months? Is it longer? When do we know it's actually a delay?
It's actually most of the milestones have a time frame of 3 to 4 months. So when we say 6 months, all children will not be sitting at 6 months itself. So we start seeing independent sitting anywhere between 4 months to 9 months. Even till 8 months, it's fine. If the child is hitting 9 months and there is no independent sitting, then we have to worry. So when it's towards the end of that time frame or they've already crossed that time frame, then that's when we worry. That's when we call it a delay. So let's say crawling. See, for crawling, we give a time frame of 6 months. Kids can crawl anytime between 6 months to 12 months. Even if they're crawling at 11 months, it's fine. But when you don't see any signs of crawl towards 10 months, 11 months, that's when we start asking parents to help the child with some play positions or some extra things that we can get them to crawl. Because the main aim of all of these is that they don't skip a particular milestone and get to a next milestone, which might be easier for their body to do. We have to get to this checklist of milestone also helps us get to the root cause of whether the progression is going according to what it's supposed to go.
And do you feel that, so you're saying there's a range of about 3 to 4 months from the
Yes.
average time. And before you actually reach that end, it is important, if 1, 2 months before you've not seen it happening, to have that early intervention to make sure they meet that. So I think that's really important to know. But my question is, do we take approach as parents that we need to be doing things constantly to make sure they sit up, to make sure they walk, to make sure they crawl? Or do we just let our kids be and let it happen naturally?
See, inherently, they're supposed to come naturally. That's why we have this progression of checklist that rolling has to come before sitting, sitting has to come before crawling, because that's what they have been doing for so long. Now, it's topic of controversy. So whenever I post about milestones on my page, you get so many parents coming in and saying, okay, let the kids be kids, let them have their childhood, they will do it on their own. Why do you have to do exercises for everything? But the thing is, anyhow, when you bring in a newborn, they cannot do anything on their own. They have so many newborn reflexes stopping them. Their movements are jerky. They cannot even lift their neck to look side to side. So you have to help them initially. You have to do tummy time. You have to do sideline. You have to position them in a way to encourage them to use their muscles. How much we support them initially, how much activity interaction from parent they get decides how fine-tuned their muscles are, how well accomplished they become later on 10 to 15 years down the line in all physical aspects or mental aspects. It affects the milestones right now, how they get to them right now, how good quality of exercises and movements they do the first year of life also affects their IQ later on, how they achieve academic excellence apart from physical excellence later on as well.
Okay, got it. So it's important for us as parents to prepare that environment and to give them that tools to help facilitate the milestones to happen on time and help push them so that they can be the best they can be at the right time. And then it will naturally move forward, right? In the years to come. And you're seeing that as doctors, as researchers, the benefits of actually paying attention and doing that. So I remember I had this app. There were like all these apps out there, right? Which tell you, okay, now your child should do this. Here are a few activities. And I found it helpful because, as you said, as parents, we don't know, and there's so much information. So it's nice to have some type of guide as well. And let's get into each one in particular. Actually, I wanted to ask you because you did mention tummy time. So if we could actually just start with that, when should babies start with tummy time and how long should tummy time be? Because I know a lot of parents get nervous. Oh no, it's too long. Like, it's been like they can't be in this position. So if you could let us know about that.
Yeah. So tummy time is basically, I'm going to give a little background on this that from the past few years, now we are into the safe sleeping habit now to prevent SIDS. So it's recommended that the child sleeps on their back and on a flat, a little hard surface, right? Since this back to sleep campaign came, we started seeing that because most of the time, the first 2 months, the baby is going to be sleeping. So they are mostly on their backs. So to work on the other sets of muscles, it's recommended, the doctors started recommending the parents from the first week itself, in the hospital itself, start tummy time. So tummy time is basically when the child is awake, we lay them on their tummy so that they start to lift up their chest a little. They start to look up a little, so it works on their neck muscles, their back muscles, and this in turn helps them with head stability, works on their core muscles. This will set the foundation for all the other upcoming milestones like rolling and sitting. So apart from tummy time, we should also do side lying positions, which gets less limelight in online. You see so much tummy time and not enough sideline talk. So sideline back play is also important. Like in their awake period, they are on their back and they're playing with something so that they are reaching up, they are looking around. Then assisted sitting position. Around 2 months, we start holding them up and letting them explore their environment. So all of these are important, but most of all tummy time because they are sleeping most of the time. So to equalize that, because their back muscles are working all the time, we want the front muscles to also work all the time. So we put them in their tummy. Now, how to begin tummy time? It's really not that complicated. We start like a minute or 2 minutes. Whenever you're changing the baby's diaper, so you do a little bit of tummy time. The child starts fussing, you roll them back on their back. You are doing skin to skin, you just put the baby on your chest and you burp them. You do a little bit of skin to skin, and that's assisted tummy time, and that's very convenient for them. You can hold them like that for 15-20 minutes also. They're fine with it. You don't, tummy time does not mean you just put them on the floor on their tummy. They will be uncomfortable. They will start fussing that moment. You take them, you put them on their lap, on your lap, you hold them like that. 2-3 minutes, they start fussing, you roll them back up. This goes on slowly, their tolerance builds up because, of course, for 9 months, they were formed in a C shape inside our utero. Now we are trying to push them into a opposite position. So they are not used to of it. They will fuss about it, but it will not harm them. We are not putting them into a risky position that we need to worry about it so much. Turn them, let them get used to it. Slowly, from 1 to 2 minutes, they start going to 5 minutes. Now, around 2 months, we start doing a little more interactive tummy time. So the mom can put the baby on a sofa, sit down on the ground at eye level, talk to the baby. Or while changing diaper, put when they roll the baby onto the tummy time, put a little bit of flashcards, contrast flashcards in front, let the baby look at that. Or let the baby reach, put some crinkly something, anything, just interact. Do it 5 to 6 minutes. Baby starts crying, roll them back again. We have to take cues from the baby on how comfortable they are. We need to aim at least one session of this active playtime every wake window. As their wake window starts increasing, second month onwards, we start increasing more interaction with the child. So it goes back and forth. You have to understand your child to know how long this playtime can be. So there is no tailored version कि आपको 15 minutes you have to do, 20 minutes you have to do. Or every half an hour, every 1 hour you do for a few minutes. And initially that's also enough. Then as they grow, 3 months they're really active. They have longer wake windows. You can do 15 minutes of tummy time. You can sit a book, you can read them, and you can sing to them. You can do so many things, and they will be participating as well. The moment they start rolling, you will not be able to do tummy time because the moment you'll put them in tummy, they'll just roll up. So you will have to start doing other things. So tummy time is so important the first 3 months before they get to rolling.
Got it. Got it. No, I love that you said that one, it should start from the beginning. Two, that you should follow the cues because you're right. Every kid is different. So follow their cues in terms of how long. I like that you said focus on it before the rolling. And a lot of times as parents, like I'm just listening to it. I'm like, oh my God, I wish someone had told me this because I was so scared to put my kids down. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But I love that you said you need to balance it with the amount of time they're sleeping on the back to have that opposite experience for them to work on
Right.
those muscles as well. So once we focus on tummy time in the first few months, then we have our kids start to try and roll over. So in terms of rolling over, it's something that I remember my kids, they just started doing it. And then like suddenly it happened one day and we were all excited. So leading up to rolling over, is there anything we should do or is tummy time the main thing that can kind of help them get there?
Sideline play. So sideline play works really well for encouraging rolling. So when you have your kid in sideline, that's like half the battle done.
Okay.
So let's say when they're flat on their back and they have to do the whole roll. So half of it till the time they come to their side is anti-gravity. This takes much more effort. If you put them directly in the sideline, the gravity will just pull them down. So for them initially to start with rolling, when we get them from sideline, we just take their leg a little forward. They'll easily roll over. They start understanding, brain starts understanding the whole movement of rolling. So then it starts becoming easier when they are flat on the back to just take their leg up and get into the motion of it. So also, I said in the beginning that sideline does not get enough limelight as much as it's required. So you'll see that because of this back to sleep campaign, we started seeing a lot of flat spots because the child cannot move their neck a lot in the beginning 2 3 months and they are in the same position. Either they are doing tummy time or they're doing back. Their skull is still malleable. The first 3 to 4 months, the shape of the skull, wherever there is extra pressure, it can change. So because of always being on their back, we started seeing a lot of cases of plagioccephaly and brachiocephaly, where there's flat spot on the side or flattening of the whole back of the head. Now, sideline is so important to prevent a flat spot formation because when they're on their back, all the pressure is on their back. And when they're on their tummy, there's no counteracting pressure. So when we put them on their sides from time to time, there is some equalizing pressure on both sides, which help form their head shape as well. This has so many percussions going on till their milestone developments as well. If their head shape is forming properly, then other milestones also develop in the right format.
So we can start this as well from newborn, right?
Yes, we can. We'll do assisted sideline initially with maybe a rolled towel, and then we can do playtime second month onwards in sideline positions where we dangle something in front of them, maybe a rattle, a crinkle book, these board books with contrast flashcards. We have them in sideline with support of our leg behind them so that they don't just roll back. We just put the baby here, we put our leg behind them, we hold them like that, and we put something in front of them. We let them be like that for 5 to 6 minutes. Then we change sides and we go on the opposite side so that they have equalizing pressure on both sides of skull. This helps shape up the head as well as ready their muscles for rolling.
Okay. So this whole flat head syndrome and all is a thing, and you're saying that it's important to make sure that, like, because there's that obsession with the round head, and what you're saying is that is as important because it helps with the developmental milestones, right? So it
Yes,
is important.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because do you think that pillow is necessary? That pillow that they make the baby
No.
sleep on?
No. So it's not recommended to give your
Yeah.
child any kind of pillow for 2 years. There's a very a high risk of asphyxiation. Their airway can close off because of the pillow. But specifically, these head shipping pillows are really not very good. What all we need is positioning them, and that helps because we need the pressure, which only comes when we are doing sideline. Also, I've heard so many parents come up to me and say their Japa maids here, they say ki, you have to massage it, the head in a way, certain way, then only it'll get round and you have to put so much oil in the soft spot. These are all myths. We do not put any extra pressure because the brain is right there under the open spot. So we have to be very careful with their heads. When we put them on their sideline, it's just their body weight is acting, and that's good enough to reshape to make sure if the flat spot is developing, it will correct initially first 2 months also, and it will help prevent it as well. Now, you were asking me this whether it's important in a only cosmetic sense or developmentally as well. I'll tell you what, this page basically began because my daughter started developing a flat spot. I'm a physiotherapist, right? I was a postpartum mom and I could not follow through on everything. I could not stand up for myself during that postpartum haze. I went to four different pediatricians. They said my daughter seems to have tight neck muscles, and I feel like she's always looking at one side, and there's some shape difference happening. All the doctors like, it's just cosmetic, doesn't matter. They grow up, the hair grows out, nobody even notices. Let it be. Just do this, put them in the crib in different positions, feed them from different sides, it'll be fine. I know as a pediatric PT that it does not want to at 2 months, 3 months, if it started coming, I have to do some intervention, and that's how it'll be better. And I realized that I have a medical background, and no, the pediatricians knew I'm a physiotherapist. Even then, they just sent me back in wait and watch. What happens to the parents who have no idea of what's going on? They're just gonna rely on their pediatricians, and mostly that's what they believe because, of course, a flat spot will not lead to brain deformity. So that's all the pediatrician is concerned about, that this is not life altering in the sense of brain formation. So if brain is fine, doesn't matter skull's shape, you go back, it's cosmetic. Now, what I observed at that time, social media had just started up. We were in that pandemic phase. We were all locked up and in our houses. So because I knew there's something going on, I need to focus on how her milestones are developing. I started noticing that because of the flat spot, she started getting tight neck muscles in one side. And that led to her side preferences, which should not have come before 2 years of age. She started rolling to one side only. She started trying to get up from one side only. She started to crawl. She started crawling in an asymmetrical pattern. I don't know if you have heard a janky crawl or a hitch crawl where they would put one knee and one foot. So like a monkey. So she started doing that. Now I knew from where it's sourcing. So at every milestone, I had to correct that movement. On every milestone, I had to work a little extra on the tight muscle to correct it so that both sides, she's working on both sides. But no other parent will know that. No other parent will be working on that. I had so many other parents of our older generation who would come up to me and say, your older brother or one of your cousins also crawled like this. A lot of my physiotherapist friends would say, who were not into pediatrics, would say, my son also crawled like this. It's fine. After that, how long are they going to crawl anyways? They're going to only crawl for 3 to 4 months. When they start walking, it's fine. But I was so invested into it because I felt like this is something that parents need to know about, that I went into a deep dive. And then I found so many researches connecting flat spot to wrong crawling, problems in walking, scoliosis development later on. Scoliosis is basically the spine gets a curvature because hip muscles are imbalanced. There were so many repercussions of that flat spot going on to 11, 12 years of life where they, even later on, some people in adult life have more tendency to have sciatic pains. Why? Because there is some curvature issue because of which one side nerve starts getting pressed. If you track it back down till their formative years, I don't know if their parents will know it or not, but there will be some problem when they were getting all these milestones. And there were imbalances which were not addressed back then. And because of that, now in adult life, you have more issues of getting knee pains, hip pains, sciatic pains, arthritis. You have more tendency to develop arthritis because alignment was not formed properly.
So to avoid this from happening for babies, you would say the best thing to do is to do these sideline movements and make sure it's happening on both sides, right? We should
Yeah,
focus on both
yeah.
ways.
So
So
not just the sideline, every milestone should be happening. Both sides of the body should be equal. So if they are crawling, they should be crawling on knees to hands. If they are rolling, they should be rolling both on left side and right side. Cruising should also be on both sides.
So what I'm really just understanding is that we have to give ourselves that knowledge. We have to help our kids make sure the movement for every milestone is happening from both sides and start from the time they're newborn. So we have our tummy time, we have our sideline position, we have them starting to roll over. Around 6 months is when that sitting up happens.
Sitting
And
comes.
for me, this is very relevant because as a child nutritionist, I get so many questions that my child is not sitting up yet. Can I start solids? Or my doctor
Right.
has told me to start solids at 4 months, but my baby cannot sit up. So, what I tell them is that in order to start solids, I need your baby to at least have good head and neck control and be able to sit with minimal support almost on their own so that when you put the baby on the high chair, they should be able to pick something up, put it in their mouth, and I need that stability there. For me, and I know you can add on, but why is this important for solids? Because when a baby can sit up, that means the muscles in their digestive system are strong enough to help digest food. The enzymes are also ready to help them digest. And obviously, we want to promote self feeding, and they need to be able to put things in their mouth. So, for me, it is very important, the sitting up aspect. And it's not upsetting, but I just get a little bit triggered when I get these messages that the pediatrician has said start solids at 4 months. When you have to feed a baby, then how? You have to feed them lying down or on a bouncer. And I made that mistake. Because as you were saying as well, I mean, at that time I had no knowledge. And even though all the information is on Google and on the internet, I was so overwhelmed that I fed my kids on a recline, which now I know is a choking hazard because food can pass the gag reflex. It's not safe for them physically. So now I'm trying to educate parents out there to start. But I think, especially for Indian parents, it's this fixation that they need to eat and they need to start, otherwise, they won't gain weight. But now a lot of parents ask me, okay, fine. We will start when our kid can sit with minimal support around 6 months. And some meet it earlier, some a bit later, no rush. They're going to be eating their whole life. Now, the big question is, what do we need to do to help our kids sit up at the right time?
Okay. So as you said, that sitting is the most important prerequisite for starting solids because when their core is stable enough to hold their body up, only then their shoulder muscles, their hands start exploring. Now we need them to have their hands free. We need them to pick up the food. We need them to pick up the spoon, put the food in their mouths, swallow. We need their airway straight. So all of those things are only there only when the child sits upright. So that's why it's so important to have them in minimal supported sitting. How can we get them ready? So starting 4 months, we work on this that the child is not going to show signs of readiness of sitting because sitting is one of those positions we prop them up in. From lying down, they will not be able to get to sitting directly. Now, there are two prerequisites of starting supported sitting. One, they should have a good head control, and two, they should be rolling both sides. Before they are rolling, we should not start supported sitting. So then again, it starts back from the first month itself. We start tummy time. When we start tummy time, their back muscles, their core muscles, and neck muscles and shoulder muscles strengthen. This will set the foundation for rolling. Now, rolling is much more difficult as compared to sitting. So a lot of kids you will see they don't want to roll because the parents have already started supported sitting and they get a good visual. They don't have to use a lot of muscles to sit. It's so easy. The parents have just propped them up. So they will want to skip rolling and they will just want to sit in a supported sitting. But sitting is something which will not happen only by propping them up. Sitting requires so much dynamic movements from the muscles to balance their body upright, to prevent them from falling down if they get a little jerky. If they have to reach something, they have to change their center of gravity changes the moment their hand goes up. And now their muscles have to work together to maintain their upright position or they're going to fall. So there's so much small movements happening inside their core that rolling is very important for that. Rolling works on the core muscles. So once you've done with rolling and they're rolling both sides equally, then you start with supported sitting. Now, for supported sitting, it's so easy. You just sit on the floor between your legs, then put them upright, hold them from their hips and thighs, and let them explore. When they start getting a little more confident, now you start sitting them in front of a mirror or a door or a cabinet. Put some suction toys on their eye level and let them manipulate those toys. Let them try to grab them or anything. So the moment they start moving their hands, they're working on their active balance now because now the muscle has to balance all these movements along with holding the body upright. Then you start seeing a little more confidence. You start leaving them a little. You just back off a little, let them manage it on their own. So you decrease the support that you're offering them. And you do that for like 5 to 10 minutes and you start increasing the time slowly. When you feel, okay, all of this is going well for me, the child is able to maintain their posture like this, and you want to give them a little more training, then you can bring in if you have a big exercise ball, you can sit them up on an exercise ball. You can roll the ball with their hip steady, roll them left to right or front to back. And this is really good for their balance because they have to try to prevent their body from tilting, from falling down. And if you do so many things like every awake window for 10 minutes, you're working on these supported sitting activities, active sitting, some toys dangling in front of them. By 5, 6 months, you will see such nice independent sitting. Not even for 5, 10 minutes, they will be able to sit through. My daughter started sitting, independent sitting at 4 months, just a week after rolling, because we had been doing all of these activities along the way. And this is why I felt like they will eventually get to the milestones. But when you start participating in it, you start getting on the floor with them and doing some purposeful activities. They start getting engaged in it. They will not even realize that they're doing an activity, an exercise, because it's all play for them. And with play, they learn so much that they get to their milestones much earlier on. It's not a race. You don't have to do it because the other kid in your circle did it at 4 months, so yours should also be doing it 4 months. But it is important for them to get into those milestones. The earlier they get, the more time they have to practice it before they have to get to the next milestone.
Yeah, when it comes to sitting up, the biggest concern for parents is, oh, but it's not good for their back. If I make them sit for 5 minutes or even on the high chair, they're like, oh, it's not going to hurt their back that they're sitting. It's okay, right? Can you help remove this fear that parents have?
Yeah, I get this question a lot that you should not put the child into sitting position before they can sit up themselves. Now, the question is, even when they start sitting up independently, from rolling, lying down to sitting, which we call functional sitting, it takes them 1.5 months to figure out the whole complicated process. So you will anyhow be sitting them up. Even when they are sitting independently, you will be putting them up. So I don't understand what's the fear behind it. So what I tell them is their spine forms in this position, the C position in utero itself. This is the same position we are giving them when they are supported sitting. So how are we putting them in any position that will exert the spine that was already formed in this position? When we start standing them up at 5, 6 months, that's when we are troubling their hip. People won't have a problem with that because everybody wants the child to start walking early. But when it comes to sitting them up at the right time, everybody gets worried that we are going to mess up their spine. We are not going to mess up their spine. We do want a good head control because, of course, they cannot sit if they cannot hold their neck up. So by 4 months, head control should be there. After they are stable, then you can start supported sitting. The only reason we want rolling to come first is so that they don't skip rolling. They will be able to do supported sitting even if they are not rolling, but they will have much better core strength if they are rolling already.
So let's get them to have good head and neck control. Let's get them to roll on both sides. Then assist them with the sitting. And
Yes.
don't worry, you're saying, and guys, everyone listen out, we're hearing this from a doctor, from a physiotherapist who's saying it's safe, it's okay to do supported sitting. Of course, you put them in that position, they are on you, and let them practice every day. It's okay in every wake window. 5 minutes you can start with, or follow their cues, as you've been saying. And when by 6 months they are ready, they are doing it with very less support, they can do it on their own, at least for 5 minutes, you can start solids. And it's okay, they can be on the high chair. Another thing I've noticed, a lot of babies, when they're on the high chair, they still lean forward a lot. Now, is this a cause of concern? Do they need to be fully upright, or is it them just kind of naturally wanting to lean forward? Why does that happen?
So we want them to be upright. The whole point of getting them into an independent sitting position is so that they're not leaning from one end to the other. They're not up. They have to be able to hold their body up from the core muscles. Then only they will be able to use their arms easily. If their arms are so busy just holding them upright, leaning from one end to the other, how will they anyhow get to eating? Now, a lot of parents will say, we're anyhow going to spoon feed. How does it matter? But the thing is, setting them up for success, we want them to interact with the food. We want them to hold the, even if you're spoon feeding, we want them to hold the spoon and lead you to their mouth. This is called baby-led weaning. Baby-led weaning can be done, as you are a specialist in this. Baby-led weaning can be done with spoon feeding as well, with purees as well. It doesn't just have to be finger foods. But the moment you start letting the child lead, you decrease the chances of choking so much. When the child cannot control their body, they're just falling here and there. They will not be able to keep their airways upright. If they're up in front, they're leaning down at the back, their airways are not straight up. They can also choke on a pureed food.
Got it. Last question for sitting up is, there's all these gadgets. I've seen the bumbo chair where the floor chairs and babies are sitting down. And then I see, of course, we have a bouncer as well, but that's more for them to see around. Then you have those seats, and then there's toys all around, and the baby's kind of like bouncing and playing with all these toys. Are these the tools that can help them, or are these unnecessary?
They actually limit the development. So these are containers. Containers will contain your child. What we want is to give them free access, to give them space to move around. The more they move around, the more they work on their muscles. When they're trying to reach here and there, when they're trying to grab something, trying to move their positions is when they work on their muscles actively. Now, they need to be doing those things actively and not passively for them to learn the skill. You want them to sit, you have to put them in a sitting position and you have to give them space to move around and work on the balance. The moment you start putting them in a bumbo, there are so many things wrong with the bumbo. I would say that is like the worst thing you can do. Parents usually start using these as a way to get a little bit of breather. They feel like I have to go to the washroom, I have to do this cooking or something, and I'm alone. I understand. I raised my child during pandemic. So you get in that phases where you need them just to safely be somewhere so that, you can do something. For that, I always recommend all you need is that big floor mat with cushioning. Put them down on the floor mat and do whatever you have to do. Before they crawl, you don't have to worry about them moving to somewhere. So most of all, what they'll do is they'll roll here and there. But because they're on the floor, they're safe. Even if you have to leave them for a few seconds, leave them on the floor. Then that floor mat will also help cushion their falls, because initially when they're practicing falling, they will they're practicing sitting, they will end up fall a lot. So when you have a good thick floor mat, the foam thing, then that cushions, they prevents injuries. And that's all you need. When they start crawling, this mat also provides a little bit of traction, gives them a little bit of boost to get forward. So that's also good. And you need like basic few toys to get them to encourage them. You don't need 10 types of containers. You don't need all of these reels that you see of baby necessities where they show swings and jumperoos and these bumbo seats. You don't need them. The more you use them, the slower their development happens. So we've seen so much that parents start putting their kids in a baby walker, in which the kind that you put the child inside. Around 4 to 5 months, we've seen so many parents just putting them in and saying that, see, they're working on their leg muscles, so they'll be able to walk faster. We will have our child walking around 10 months because we've started putting them in walkers at 3, 4 months. They're not actively working on the muscles that they need to work on for walking. They're just putting the child in wrong positions, because of which they're gonna lead to compensatory muscle development. They're gonna have wrong alignment. They're gonna have pressure on joints. They're not ready to take that pressure yet. And we see that those kids end up getting into the later stages of milestone development. They, instead of walking around 12 months, we'll see those kids walking around 16, 17 months because they didn't get enough floor time. That's the only thing they need to develop milestones.
I just met a friend that day and she said that, yeah, my baby is 9 months and hasn't crawled yet. And he's just trying to stand and walk the whole time. So we're supporting this. Is it okay for a child to skip crawling?
It's my favorite topic. It's not okay for your child to skip crawling, no matter what CDC guidelines say, no matter what your pediatrician say. It's not okay for them to only army crawl. It's not okay for them to only bump scoot. And it's not okay to totally leave crawling and move on to walking. Now, I don't get why skipping a milestone is equated to skipping a grade in school. Parents feel like their child is advanced if they are skipping one milestone and hopping to the other. It's not. You have to pause, take a pause, and ask yourself, why is my child not doing this milestone? If this is a common way of progression, so much so that everybody knows that after sitting comes crawling, then why is my child not crawling and going directly to walking? We need to understand there is some reason, there is some muscle tightness that is stopping your child, some muscle weakness that is stopping your child from to get into that position and not crawl. Now, standing is much easier as compared to crawling, and sitting is much easier as compared to rolling. So rolling and crawling are two such milestones that the child ends up skipping. Not because they were advanced enough to do that, but because it needs more muscle interaction and it takes more effort for the child to do it. And unintentionally, the parents or the support system in the house started encouraging the next milestone. So what happens is to stand, all they need to do is lock their joints and take support from something. And now they get a good visual. They are able to explore much more. And the parents are very happy that, oh, my child is standing. They'll be able to walk soon. Because eventually everybody wants their child to walk. Crawling is just like intermediary.
Transition. Yeah.
Yes, transition. So they think it's not important, but crawling has so many benefits. Crawling is the only position in which they'll be putting their whole complete weight on their shoulder and hands, and the whole arm takes weight. And because it's only happening for 4 to 6 months of their entire life, it sets up a lot of repercussions even till their academic things. So when they are crawling on hands and knees, they are working on shoulder strength because there's some pressure going on, and their shoulder, the more pressure the shoulder gets, the more weight the shoulder gets, the more it develops, which later on helps with writing practice, which later on helps with a lot of things. Crawling is cross action. So basically, when they crawl, they have to move one hand and one leg together, opposite side. Then they have to move the other side hand and opposite side leg. So when they're doing this cross activity, both sides spheres of our brain, basically, this is one of the only few activities in which the both brains are interacting with each other because both sides are working together. Now, when these cross connections are forming while they crawl, their brain development is happening, which will help so much, which will not come easily with other activities. This will later on help them with tying shoes when they are doing something which requires both their hands, which will even go on to independent eating, how they use combs, how they do different things. Crawling will put pressure on their hips, and this will help form their hip shape. When they are crawling, their hip will form a little, they'll have a little more stability that will lead to better way of walking.
So, if we have a baby that is skip crawling and is already showing that they want to stand up, what can parents do if they are stuck in this position?
So even if your child has started walking, you still encourage them to crawl. Have some games involved, like those crawling tunnels or something or the other. Have obstacle courses where you encourage them to crawl. We say crawling is good even for kids as old as 6, 7 years old because it helps integrate a lot of reflexes for them, which sometimes are left behind from their baby stage. It helps form hand arches because they're putting their weight on the hands. These arches form, these muscles develop with the help of crawling. So crawling basically needs three play positions. It might be a little difficult to understand by just listening to us, but you can easily find a lot of videos for this. I have some videos on my page as well. So you help them in side sitting positions. You play with them in side sitting positions where both their legs are in one side, then both left and right. So you sit them in front of something and you just hold on to them for side sitting. Then a high knee position. So having them play on an elevated, on a table or like a baby activity table or a cube in a high knee position. That helps with hip muscles strengthening a lot. And then on all fours. So you put them across your thigh when they are on their hands and knees, and your thigh supports the underbelly. You just have them play in that position or maybe rock them in all four positions. So basically, we're getting the muscles ready to get them into that position. So these three positions, when you start doing 6 months onwards, this will help them get to crawling in a month or 2 months. Even if your child is walking, I would always recommend that you still work on these three play positions and encourage them to crawl also some way. Even if they're crawling for 3 to 4 months,
Will
even if
help.
they're
Yeah.
just crawling for playtime, but
Yeah.
encourage that.
Yeah, and I like the idea that you had of the obstacle course. I know the tunnel. So like in Hong
Oh,
Kong,
the
we have
kids
a lot
love
of
that.
these. Yeah, like we have my gym. So and I'm sure
Uh-huh.
they have it all over. So that's where they really encourage. And a lot of babies who've gone from 6 months have been able to really crawl so beautifully in that class because they have the tunnels. They have those
Mhm.
situations where the kids have to be in that knee position or be on
Yes,
top of something. So yeah, the main thing is that do not skip crawling, do not skip a milestone because it has so many benefits. It helps them
yes.
all over. Yes, Dr. Megha, I want to ask you about walking because yes, we know that it's a fairly easy milestone in terms of kids enjoy it, parents enjoy it, but there are situations where the child is 15 months and is not walking yet. Why does this happen and what should we do?
Okay, so walking as a milestone can come anytime between 12 months to 18 months. So even if your child is not walking at 15 months, you don't need to worry a lot. But they need to be pulling up to stand by then. They need to be trying to stand independently by then. So maybe pulling up to stand with the help of a couch and leaving their hands. You see, if they are even trying that, then there's no concern for there's no reason for concern, and they will get to it. Again, like all other milestones, this milestone also depends a lot on how much opportunity they are getting to practice this milestone. If they're getting enough floor time, if they're getting enough places for them to hold on, and is there like a baby safe area for them to explore? If we always keep them in a container or in godi, we don't have enough floor time for them to go on and explore. We have light furniture that keeps tipping every time they try to pull up. They will be scared to do that. So you have to make sure that to help them get to that milestone, you have set their environment in compliance to them. A walker will not help. So a lot of parents feel if I give, because I've not given her a walker, that's why she's not walking. Or maybe a push walker will help. They can easily learn how to walk on their own just with the help of your sofa. So you just put the sofa chairs close to each other, and they should be heavy enough that it does not fall when your child is trying to get up on it. And two parents can sit across from each other a few steps away, and one can hold the child and the other can encourage them to come towards. And that's also good enough. The moment they understand the whole taking two-step thing, one step independently, they start moving more towards it. So that's all we have to do for walking.
Okay, okay. So a lot of kids, when they do start walking, another thing I've noticed is they walk on their tiptoes. Why is
Mhm.
that?
That's perfectly normal. First 3 months, we see so many things that we get worried about. Their toes are a little clawed, always crunching their toes like that. They're picking up their foot a lot while putting down. They do not follow that heel to toe pattern of walking till much later. So you'll see toe walking a lot. So before 2 years of age, we do not worry about toe walking because it brain needs a lot of modifications to get to a mature pattern of walking, the mature pattern of doing any milestones. So when do we get concerned about toe walking is when they're over 2 years old. More than 80% of the time they are walking on their toes. They are not able to walk at all on their heels, or this pattern has been going on for more than 4 weeks, you see recurrent falls even after 2 years, that's when you need to address this concern. That means that there is some restriction happening in the muscles, which is not allowing a child to go from to walking to normal pattern. Before 2 years, it's fine. You let them. The only thing you need to do actively is not put shoes on them. Keep them barefoot.
Mm.
The more they are barefoot, all the small muscles in the sole of their foot works on giving them a good grip. The more they work, their arches develop like that, and they get into a good mature pattern of walking with that. When we start putting them in shoes, they slip a lot. It's an added weight on their feet. A lot of times, the shoes are not of the right sizes and quality. They end up working too much to hold the shoe rather than hold the floor and work on the leg muscles. So when indoors, always keep them without shoes. When going outdoors, if your child has been walking well for more than 2 months now, they've been walking well without support, then outdoor you can put on some shoe which protects their feet from getting poked or something. Otherwise, just put them in socks or like a bootie or something if going outside and keep them without shoes inside.
Amazing. You know, sometimes when I just listen to these talks and when I'm having people on the podcast, I'm just like, I should have another kid just so I could do things differently because I was like, I wish I knew all of this. And honestly, today has been so insightful. I know actually I wanted to get into speech and all these other things as well. I think we need to do another podcast for that. I know all the parents here are going to love listening to this, especially if they're pregnant or with a newborn. They can actually get started. I think the main things I learned from you today is that do not skip milestones, be proactive as a parent, and support your child so that they can meet the milestones. But number three, also be patient with them. It's okay if there's a bit of delay. Every kid has their own way. I even say this with eating, it's a skill. Just keep practicing and do it at the right time. And also just give them that leeway and just know how important these milestones are and educate yourself as a parent. And
Yes.
thank you for all the work that you do and for sharing that knowledge with all the parents. And thank you for being here today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I am looking forward to more parents discovering all of these things through your podcast and making their life a little less anxious by educating them.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys for the next episode.